Hello, booktube. You on my boat? It floats. You'll float too. Hello, and welcome to the Halloween movie book tag. Oh, it's hot. It's always so hot in hell. So, welcome to another Tag Tuesday. We're down to 2 tags left. If you do not know, somehow I am doing a bunch of tags created by Bree from the Lock Petition. I'm really excited for this one because I have to do my Georgie costume. I don't have a red balloon to go with it, so hopefully this makeshift cardboard boat will do. You want your boat? It floats. You'll float too. Spoilers, I love it. Halloween movie book tag, number 1. What is your favorite Halloween movie and why? So let's go ahead and say, obviously, I love It. I loved the Tim Curry version. It's cheesy and it's out of date and it doesn't age very well, but Tim Curry's amazing. And the new one is creepy as fuck, and I love it for that reason, but it's not my favorite. Neither of them are my favorite movies. I just had to mention it because obviously, I mean, this is supposed to be Georgie, in case that wasn't clear. So next, I didn't answer the question. I'm a little excited, a little hyper. 80s, a lot of 80s horror is my favorite, like all-time favorite. Nightmare on Elm Street, Hellraiser, Evil Dead, these are the best of the best. I love the really gruesome, demonic shit. That said, I think what I would say is the best horror, like there's the sentimental favorites, and then there's like the best horror objectively. It'd probably be either Babadook or maybe Hereditary. I like those very family focused, creepy, supernatural, less gory takes on horror. I think like those are the most effective, emotionally gripping. It's really good. It's just, if you haven't seen them, chef's kiss, as the kids say these days. When did you realize that you like Halloween? Well, it all started about 13.7 billion years ago when the origin of the universe began. Fast forward to now and rewind a bit further. I used to always like Halloween just because I grew up with my parents watching horror movies, much to my mother's chagrin mostly, I think, but she knew much to stop it, so whatever. I grew up to love Halloween, horror movies rather, and that sort of transitioned to Halloween. But growing up, I was very Christian, a very conservative Christian. I don't want to get into that right now. But the point is that I was more into Christmas at the time. But since I transitioned into my demonic, satanistic atheism, obviously grew to love the truest and bestest holiday of the year, of every year. And that is, of course, Halloween. I come to really appreciate because of my love of horror, as when I was younger and now, obviously. And just because as much as I like Christmas, it has that taint of Christianity attached to it, which I will never be a favorite of, despite me loving those Christmas songs, even the ones that have Jesus in it, because it's in my head. I can't get out of it. This is about Halloween, not the scariest holiday, which is Christmas. So yeah, I grew up watching horror. My parents letting me watch horror probably fed into that. And then of course my atheism plays a role in why it is the most favorite. Is that a good answer? I don't know, but it's the answer you get. Can you remember the first Halloween or magical themed book that you ever read? Obviously. No, not really. The Magic Tree House. Oh God, can I get a hand? The Magic Tree House by Mary Pope Osborne. I loved this as a kid. This was really the first thing I remember reading as a kid. I may have had younger books, but these are the ones that I have a conscious memory of reading. And this is part of what gave my love of time travel and magic in general. Another one though, why did I put my arm away? Darren Shane was the first real horror that I got into. Granted, he is YA, and I didn't think he was that popular, but I realized, actually looking on Goodreads, that a lot of people have read Darren Shane, so I'm not special in that aspect. But I loved the vampire series. I liked the Divinata even more, even though I realized it's not nearly as popular on Goodreads, just because I like the demon and magic side of it, more so than the vampire, less magic-y side. And I think I mentioned this before, but I'll mention it again. I went to meet Darren Shane when I was 18, so 12 years ago now, 2008. And I got him to sign all my books, and I even got him to sign the poster for that thing, which Darren Shane really was a big impact. All that horror, like that was the first real horror novels that I read, even if they were a kid's horror. His books can be pretty gruesome if for children. What book on your shelf has orange on the cover? And obviously a lot of my books have orange on the cover, but okay. I think I'm gonna leave these transitions in because damn, you deserve to know how inconvenient it is to have only one arm. The Demon Haunted World by Carl Sagan, and this one despite its name, is not scary. Well, it's scary in some sense because it's about skepticism and incredulity, like astrology, pseudoscience, and other bullshit. I highly recommend this book to literally everyone. If you're thinking of reading a book in November, I think this is a good book to pick up. It's not the easiest book, but I don't think it's necessarily academic either. It's a book by Carl Sagan in the 1990s. He was a scientist and skeptic, planetary scientist, one of the inspirations behind why I'm a planetary scientist. And he wrote this book and was an advocate of this type of thinking, where about being critical and how to recognize the difference between science and pseudoscience, but also outside of science, asking what are we believing and why, even if something is outside the purview of science, like in, say, politics. That's what we can still ask those questions. Like, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. That's the fundamental crux of this book. If something is an extraordinary claim, if it's claiming to break or go against a well understood and well accepted fact of reality, then that requires a great deal of evidence to disprove. For example, aliens, ghosts, so on and so forth. It's important to recognize how our minds trick us, and this is a really good introduction to that field, and it's still to this day one of the best books in the field. I started rereading it earlier this year with my sister, and we didn't get through it, and I definitely want to hopefully get to it this year. I don't know if I will, but I need to reread it, needless to say. Poison, curse, and cast a love spell. Choose between Pennywise, Jason, and Beetlejuice. I think we all need to understand that clearly the love spell, 100% without hesitation, will go on Pennywise. Well, I was going to say specifically the Skarsgård version of him, but honestly, I wouldn't mind the Tim Curry version either. And while I know it might be my death, it is, I mean, let's just look at this. Let's look at Skarsgård and tell me why you wouldn't want a love spell on him, even if he is in the Pennywise version. Like, yes, please. It is hot in here, and I don't think it's just because of this hoodie. Absolutely. And then next up, I would curse Beetlejuice because he's a dick, but he's not a monster. And then I would obviously poison Jason. Also, he's basically already cursed, so cursing him won't do much good. I never was a big fan of Jason. Sorry. What was your favorite Halloween-ish book turned into a movie? A good one here, or several here. I've already alluded to this movie. I know it's got a lot of problems, and like I already said, neither adaptation is fantastic or amazing. They're both fantastic and amazing. Neither are perfect, is what I mean to say. But the one that I have to go with, like the objectively best adaptation, horror-wise, is going to be Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. This is probably the best horror adaptation I've ever seen. It is objectively the best horror TV show I've ever seen, and probably the best horror in general, like in the film purview. The 1963 black and white film is really good. It's much more true to the book, but still really good, and even if it is very different from the TV version. But when I say the best, I'm talking about the TV version, as much as I love the movie as well. Name 3 books that are dark or spooky that you would love to become movies. Obviously, I'd love to see The Ballad of Black Tom by Victor LaValle. This is nonfiction. This is a dark horror fantasy novella that is Lovecraftian, about this black man who lives in New York in the 1930s or 40s, and basically works in the art of trading some valuable material, and he intercepts something very dark and powerful, and it's his story. It's dark and it's delightful and it's Lovecraftian, and I adore it. We're gonna keep going though, because we're not stopping there. No. What do you call this? The Cabin in the Woods? The Cabin at the End of the World. The Cabin at the End of the World. What am I saying? By Paul Tremblay. The book was really good. I didn't give it a full 5 stars like a lot of people, but I thought the tone was fantastic. I think it would work amazingly as a movie, especially if it really leaned into the potential of it being real and like the hysteria of it all. But it's this book that's basically about this. I'm worried that I may have been too spoilery here, so I wanted to just clarify. It's about this cult that breaks into this cabin to this family and starts threatening them and telling them they have to do something or the fate of the world is at risk. There's constantly this like terror of, is this real? Like, I love it because Paul Tremblay is really able to walk this line always of, is something just in someone's head, or is it like actually like exactly what they say it is? And it's dark and it's delightful. The tone, as always, is fantastic. Honestly, I kind of want to reread it now that I've got a better idea of what I like and a better appreciation for his type of writing. I think I might like it more the second go around. Next will be The Good House by Tanner Reeve Dew, and this is a sort of Haitian voodoo, I don't want to say ghost story, it's not a ghost story, it's a haunted living house story. That it's really about this monster, this demon who infects this house and everything around it, making terrible things happen. Honestly, it reminded me a lot of The Shining, and in fact it also references The Shining in here, and I think it would make a fantastic adaptation because it's not The Shining, but it's a similar tone, similar concept of the home being alive. I think it's going to be really good, especially since it deals with a different type of horror because we're dealing with sort of voodoo or Haitian gods, if I remember correctly. Out of the books that I mentioned, which actually there's one more I want to mention. Now, I'm sure if you at all familiar with this Cirque du Freak Saga Darren Shane vampire series, you'll know it got made into a movie. It was terrible with John C. Reilly, horrible. And I'm sure if this got adapted, it would be just as bad. But the Demonata, I'd love to see this adapted just because I have such a sentimental value attached to this demonic magic stuff, and I love demons and magic. And I think even if it was tacky, it could be really cool to watch. And so I'd love to see this adapted. Now, talking about who I'd love to be cast in these, I'm not going to talk about the Demonata. Anybody could be cast in that and it still wouldn't be good probably. But let's start with the Good House. Keep in mind, I'm terrible with characters, so I'm going to go with the central main woman character who is has a son, all about her and her life. And I feel like I'm saying this because I just watched Little Fires Everywhere, but Kerry Washington, I think, has the energy to really bring this character to life. I think there are a lot of potential women here who could play this character, but I think Kerry Washington is an example of someone who would have the ability to really convey the emotion and still get to really a lot of strength in certain scenes that I think are necessary for this book. Then for this one, I honestly don't feel strongly about a lot of things, but for some reason, I feel like there's this one main cult guy who I think could be played really well by Aaron Paul. Even though Aaron Paul is super short and the cult guy is supposed to be really tall, I still feel like I see him fitting well in that character. And then for this, I feel like I'm going with the obvious answer here, but Michael B. Jordan as the main character, I think we've seen how great he can play a good villain. Not that this guy's a villain, but he's like an ominous, not quite perfect person character, and I think Michael B. Jordan's a good example of someone who could play that character. Now that is, I believe, this tag. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you have a frightful Halloween. I will see you next week when I am doing the last tag, the skull ranking book tag, and I haven't decided yet what my costume is going to be. As always, hope you all stay safe or bloody, since it is Halloween, whichever you want to do. Until next time, bye. I don't want to do this. Ugh.